Welcome to The Business Directs. We are here with Carl Scott. I am super excited to jump into this book, A Changing Man. Carl and I actually went to school together at Savannah State University, so I am learning some new things I did not know. And I'm really excited to just dig in and just catch up, reconnect, and learn where he is on his journey. So, Carl, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you.
So, how you been? Where are you located in the world right about now? It's been a couple years, like what, a good 8?
8 years.
Ooh, we're not gonna go there.
We're not, yeah. But so I currently live in Maryland, like right outside of DC with my wife. Yeah, we've been here probably like 4 years now. You know, I work for a nonprofit for mentoring. I also do therapeutic mentoring on the side, and yeah, I wrote a book. That was something I didn't never anticipate doing, like in a million years, but I did it, and I was so like nervous about writing the book because I didn't know how to be transparent. Like for a long period of time, I didn't know how to be truthful about my past and what was holding me back from things. So like I started therapy, and once I started therapy, it started to unpack all of the things that I've been harboring for all of these years. And my therapist was like, "Yo, make sure you start writing." And I started writing, and as I started writing like about everything, I just formulated into the story, and I was like, "Yo, I think I should give this away. Like I should give this to the world, you know." And
Yeah.
once I did, it was very like alleviating to just give it away and like not hold on to that pain anymore, you know. And I think that was the beauty of it, like the releasing of it and the announcement, like because I was so scared, you know. If you're reading in the book now, like I was so scared of being judged because I believed I wasn't good enough for a long period of time. And then a little bit of that still was there on right up to me releasing the book. I didn't want to put it out because I was nervous. I was like, "Yo, is it gonna be good? How is it gonna be received?" And I was just like, you know what, just do it, just do it. And once I made that post that I'm gonna release the book, it was received well, and it's still being received well. It's almost like a year after being published, and you know, people are still like reaching out to me saying, "Yo, this is a really good read," and I was like, "Yo, thank you." Friends are like that, like, "Yo, I didn't get the book yet." I'm like, "Don't worry about it. It's gonna be here for a long time, but you know, so don't rush. It's here for a little time."
And I'm sure you will continue to get accolades pouring in. I actually just found out about it like last week. So there may be people who have known you and just didn't know until it crosses their preview. And then, of course, it's going to be like, oh my gosh, I just appreciate so much how not, how, well, also how valuable you are, but how vulnerable you were in this book and just honestly sharing your truth. And at times you even tell us like how it wasn't easy to write certain things and to share that. So I can only imagine that process of therapy and you really letting us in on your journal more than anything. And I just think that is amazing for you to have shared some of that. So we are going to go ahead and dive right in. I love that you named it A Changing Man. In the book, you mentioned that there's no such thing as a changed man. And I love that because we are all transforming and changing.
Mhm.
Take us a little bit through some of your changing process and like how that started, kind of the mix between high school and college, and a little bit of that story.
So it starts off well, like I didn't really start to acknowledge the aspect of changing until like I was probably almost I had just graduated, you know, from Savannah State. So like once I graduated, it was like, yo, I got some work to do. I still got work to do. And you know, at that time I'm like 25, I graduated, and I'm really confused about where I want to go still at that point. So it's just like I had to really assess my life and reconstruct the way I was behaving, you know, the things that I was doing, all of the negative behaviors that I was participating in. And I was like, you know what, it's time to make this transition from being the person that I was to the man that I know that I could be. And you know, when I use the phrase man, I'm not, you know, I'm just using it as a as the term as a human. Like anybody could be a changing human being, you know, but like a lot of times the man, I want people when they see man, it's not just a matter of gender, you know, it's not a matter of your sexuality, identity. that makes you a man. I really try to like hone it in on that. Like I'm just a masculine identifying individual.
Yes.
That so it's just like I understand the importance of inclusive, like being inclusive with people's in different how diverse the world is in sexual fluidity and stuff. So it's just like it could be anybody. Anybody can change. You just gotta figure out what point of your life, at what point in your life you want to start, right? Because we can't go back and change the past. So I realized I couldn't change anything that I was doing, and I couldn't change the past, but I can change the way that I behave moving forward. I can change the way I have conversations with women. I can change the way that I talk to my father. I can change. There's so many things that I realized I had to change because it was hurting me to hold on to that. Like and yeah. So I think one thing that really stood out to me about my process was that you know I I admitted that I was hurting, like I was admitting that I was hurting. And this is that narrative for men, especially black men, to be strong, you
Yeah.
know, be strong, don't worry
Don't
about it,
cry, suck it up,
suck
all
it
the
up,
things.
and that's just toxic. That's is extremely toxic. And I'm walking around like a ticking time bomb all the time, like really angry. A lot of times I had to harbor that anger in, and sometimes I would explode on people who didn't deserve it, right? And I was like, yo, this is not how I want to live the rest of my life, And where do I see myself 5 years from now, from graduating? Like, where did I see myself now? And once I changed the vision, I changed the way I saw things, and now everything is slowly rolling because I had made the decision to say this is what I wanted out of life, and I'm gonna start going towards it. And I truly feel like I can do anything. Like it's crazy. Like I'm so confident in myself now. I'm extremely confident that anything that I say I'm gonna do it. And if I don't do it, it's because I didn't want to do it. So it's just like that's what it comes down to, and that's how I started. I think that's what my changing process looked like. But in
I love
in,
that.
in my book, I paraphrases John Prokraska's theory of change. You
Yes,
know,
we are going to get to that. The
okay,
5 steps.
yeah, yeah,
That first step is just so important when you said, you just had to identify that you were hurting. I also love how in the book you allow you give people questions to ask, and having gone through a changing process, those questions are important. So I love that you give people a place to start, because so many people, you don't know that you're in the process of changing, you don't necessarily know what to do. But these 5 steps are very helpful, and for people to ask, where are you in this process, and each step that you're in, what questions you need to ask yourself to actually get to the next spot.
yeah. Yeah, and I got. If you want me, I could break down the stages. It's the 5 stages are like pre-contemplation, and that stage, it's like you don't even know that you're making a decision like that to change. Like it's just everything around you. You're just existing in that presence. Like life is going at its peak, but there's a harboring feeling inside of you that's like, what would my life look like if something was different? What would it be like if I gave something up? And that's the pre-contemplation stage. The contemplation stage, you start thinking like, what do I got to cut off? This is the second stage. It's like now you start identifying the things that you need to really cut out of your life. And a lot of times we we are conducive to our environment. Like what we do is based on our environments. And if you're gonna behave a certain way, if you're in a certain environment, and the first thing you have to do is isolate yourself from environments that are not conducive to your growth. And that's how you start contemplating. Is this person good for me? Is this job good for me? Is this marriage good for me? These are the things you start contemplating in the second stage. And then it's the third stage where you start preparing your life for what it looks like after you make this change. You start thinking, you know, all right, I see how my life looks now. I got to prepare for this. I might not have the same social circles that I had now once I make this decision to change. So can I live with this? And you start preparing. You start taking out, you start really evaluating your time and how you're spending your time in the preparation stage. And then the fourth stage is the action stage where it's like, boom, I'm in it to win it. I'm doing this. There's no way I'm going back. I'm living my life. I'm making all these changes. I'm making all these strides. And I'm doing this for the betterment of myself, right? And then the last stage is the maintenance stage, and that's maintaining those great changes that you've made, because it's so easy to resort back to those old negative habits that we once had. So once you get to that fifth stage, you gotta maintain everything that you have been doing up until to the point of you changing, maintaining it and doing all the healthy things that you were doing. A lot of people say like, I don't see the results. That's because you stopped maintaining what you were doing before. You
Yeah.
started to slip backwards. But you have to make sure that you're doing something to help go towards the growth that you wanted to obtain for yourself. And I had to realize like I can't recreate a process like that, right? Because it's already out there. And where do I fall in line in this process is what I had to ask myself. Like, did I want to change? How badly do I want to change? Am I willing to cut these friends off? You feel me? Like, am I willing to stop drinking? What am I willing to give up so that I can really be able to live the life that I want to live? And the changing process, the process changing process really helps to like hone in on those stages and using it. It really was impactful for me. And then I'm gonna tell you guys because I've never told anybody this, but the story of the man that I share is actually my dad and my mom.
You know, I really like I literally had that intuition as I was reading. I was like, I really wonder if this is his dad. And the
Mhm.
man that you said stepped into your life at 2 years old.
Yeah,
And I was like, this would be an amazing serve. He said, I don't want to put it out there. That is,
yeah,
and even through the things that you were born with, like the heart condition and your mother having to choose if she's going to have this child, you have lived a life of resiliency. Like you were born resilient,
yeah,
even though you've had to go through these different things. And I love where in the book you said it's about getting to your destiny, and it's like the destiny that you create and you're the creator of that. So no
yeah,
matter what we go through, having to realize like you were born with everything you needed, you were born worthy, and we get confused along the way with these different triggers. And being in third grade and someone else taking our ring pop, or giving the girl we giving the girl we were interested in a ring pop before we could, or not being Michael Jackson. And at this young age, we reprogram our mind to think we are less than, unfortunately. And it takes this changing process. It takes going through the 5 steps, even the maintenance part of it and who you surround yourself with, because you can't do it on your own. So knowing that, being a Black man, saying that I had a therapist, or I have a therapist. I know you're big on mentoring, not only being a mentor yourself to young men, and young boys, but also having a mentor. And it's like, even when you get through all of the different stages of your process, to maintain and to stay where you are, you have to continue to be poured into, because it's so easy to fall back into those spaces if you're not careful, because our mind is such a powerful place. But if we're not in control of it, then you lose that.
you do, you do.
And thank you for sharing that
Yeah,
with us. That is not something that we take lightly. So thank you.
yep. You're the first people to know it. What better platform to do it than with the ones that I trust, right? I love it. I love it.
So now that we've learned a little bit, I know at the very last chapter you do start to talk about love, and I think that's where your life picks up right now. So if you don't mind, I would love to just how have the past 4 years been? You guys, he is married to a very beautiful woman with a very beautiful soul. Their wedding was bomb. Go check out his social media pages to like go back and see the wedding photos. You will love it. I felt like I was right there.
Thank you, thank you. Oh man, the marriage and yeah, I leave it on the part of learning how to love. Like that was, I think that's like the chapter before last. Um, I think that was one of my favorite chapters because it when you find something like in a partner who helps you to grow and gives you the space and allows you to grow and not condemn you for being the way that you are, you find yourself being able to really flourish and become the person that your partner needs, right? And a lot of times we get confused about what we want or what we need in relationships. And one thing I learned is that I want to be the person that she needs, not the person that she wants, because I'm able to provide the things that sustain her deepest happiness, and those are the needs, right? We want a big car, we want a nice car, big house, we want those things, but what she needs more is that unconditional love and support. And learning how to love myself was was what I had to do in order so I could truly love her fully. And in the beginning, like when we first started dating, I was like, I want to be committed to this process with you, and this is a journey, and we're gonna fight, we're gonna have debates, we're not gonna like each other at some points, right? And I'm saying this in the beginning, like I'm setting this foundation, and then it's just like we grew upon those those foundations together, and I was like, you know what? When I told my girls, like I was in the parade at the MLK parade, and I saw her. I had never spoke to her before, and I was like, yo, I'm gonna marry that girl right there. Like I didn't speak to her. I didn't know her name. I didn't know like anything about her. But I just told my bro, I was like, yo, I'm gonna marry that girl right there. A few months later, I'm getting interviewed. I bump into her. I'm like, yo, this the girl I said I'm gonna marry. We start talking, we start chatting, and she's like, yeah. She's like, where you from? I'm like, I'm from New York. She's like, which part? She's from New York too. I was like, I'm from the Bronx. She's like, I'm from Brooklyn. I was like, yeah, I'm from like the Fordham University area, and she thought I said Fordham University, the school. And I just ran with it. I'm like, yeah, you might think I'm not Fordham University. I'm from the area around there. So
Ah,
and
love it.
it was just after that moment we went on a date in the park, and I just tried to be committed. I tried something different. In the past I had never tried. I know what it looked like to be committed because I didn't see it. Like I seen my stepdad do it with my mom's. I seen it, but like all of my role models were opposed to that lifestyle. So it was just like so hard to really show what commitment looked like. And then, she challenged me. She challenged me, man. Like I
Where were you in the process of changing as a changing man? Because you said you did things differently and you knew something about her. Where were you at that moment in your own journey?
I was in the contemplation stage, to be honest. Like I was really contemplating on like, do I want to change the way that I was, right? And then it so happens that she comes into my life, and it's like, yo, now you really got to make the decision to change to be better, or
Mhm.
you're gonna resort backwards and lose out on something that could potentially change your life forever, which it did, and it's just like making that decision. I can wholeheartedly say like saying I want to change to grow with a person who I see I can spend the rest of my life with, and I made that decision. It was like the contemplation stage because I was really like I was coming out of the phase of being, Yab that everybody once knew me as. So it was just like coming out of that is just was the process that I had to do, um, and realizing that's not what men do. Like a real man takes care of his family. A real man is honorable. A real man is faithful. And I had to learn that. I had to relearn that, and she just provided me the space to do that. And I wasn't, and she didn't really judge me for the way that I was. She just accepted me to be knowing that I was changing. And it's tough, Any relationship it requires work, and
Yeah.
we've been putting in work, and we're seeing the benefit, like we're reaping the benefits of the amount of work that we put into the relationship, and like I can wholeheartedly say, like it's I truly love this woman. Like I would give my life for hers. That like, and I could never see myself saying something like that before. Like I'm sitting here like, and it just really is. It just I get goosebumps every time I talk about her still. So it's just like it's real. And I don't want to you know deter anybody from this side of living. Like find a person who you really can grow with and spend time learning that person. Like be willing to help them go through a path to face their past. Like the trauma and why they operate the way that they operate. Why they behave the way they behave because it's some shit that they dealt with that they were dealing with before they knew you, and they bringing in all of that baggage into your relationship.
Yeah.
Have the strength to confront that baggage with them. Don't run away when you see when they get us. Because if if I'm scared of the baggage that I'm dealing with, I need you to know. I need to see that you're strong enough to stand there with me, so I can feel secure in my attempt to challenge these things from my past. And so that's the space that I've been provided in this relationship, and it's been vice versa. And we confronting those things. We've confronted the things from my past, through counseling and stuff like that. So it's just helpful to do it together. It's always, you don't want to do something like that alone because it's harder. It was harder. And so, as just to answer the question, I was in the contemplation stage, and I started preparing my life for what I wanted it to be for the future. What do I want my future children to see? I wanted to think about, like, how am I going to impact my grandchildren with the decisions that I'm making right now with loving her fully. So I started rethinking how I asked myself these questions, like, how did my grandchildren benefit from my behavior today? Right? And I don't even have grandchildren yet, but those are the type of questions that I would ask myself. I don't have children yet, but I'm so far ahead thinking and cementing a legacy through family, being a great husband, and honoring God in those ways that they're all aligning to make it to help me change and maintain this change.
I love that. And I know in the book you also mention intention plus behavior equals impact. And you literally just talked us through that process, setting the intention of what I want my legacy to be like. These are the behaviors that I need to be, the man that I need to be for my wife. And the impact that we'll see from that when the time comes is a
Yeah,
legacy that will be formed because you intentionally created and made the space for that to happen.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's one of my favorite quotes. The intentions plus behavior equals impact. And like I think about that all the time, right? And I use it when I'm talking to people, like, what were your intentions behind what you did? Like, and you really could, you a lot of times people just do things and do it and they don't think about, like, why they doing it. Like, I want you to really, and this is when you become more mindful about your behavior and your awareness of yourself. When you're thinking about what are your intentions behind what I'm about to do,
Yeah.
right? And I use it with young kids too, because if you take 15 seconds to realign what you're about to do with your intentions, you could save yourself from going to jail. You could save yourself from driving drunk. There's so many things that you can really realign the trajectory of your life when you take a second to pause and think about what your intentions about behind what you're gonna do, right? What do you expect
15
to
second
gain?
rule. Okay. Just
Yeah,
15 seconds. Rethink this
just
question.
pause, bro. Breathe, sis. Please breathe. And take a second to think about what you're gonna do, why you're doing it. And how is it gonna impact you later on? Because all behavior has a consequence. Everything that we do has a consequence. And a lot of times we think of consequences as being a bad thing. No, the consequence is just what happens after something is done.
Yes.
So, and it's really like relearning all of the language of being intentional is very important. And I learned that when I started reworking myself through therapy and stuff, and looking at, like, yo, why did I do certain shit? Like, yo, what was I thinking? And I realized that I had been operating from a trauma standpoint. Like, I was operating in my trauma. So I just, like, learning the power of, being able to reframe the way I think was the beauty of, like, going through therapy and understanding how I could become more intentional. And I really advocated for, like, everybody at least to go to a few sessions, just try it.
Yeah.
I always
Well,
advocate for it.
for anyone who is on the fence, especially a Black man that will end up watching this, what made you go, or what were some questions that you asked, or what pushed you there enough to be like, I need someone to talk to, or I need help, or I just out like what was the catalyst that finally got you there?
I was tired, yo. Like, I kept coming to the same place. Like, mentally I would be down one week, and then a few days I'm up again, and then I'll be down. Like, oh, why am I always down? Like, I was forcing myself to be happy and
And then
not
you finally
realizing,
ask.
like, I was forcing myself to be happy and not realizing that it wasn't conducive, like, to being able to really flourish. And I was like, yo, I need help. I need help. And then I didn't really start therapy until I got into my grad program. Like, when I started my graduate program, they encourage you to go to therapy. And I was like, from all my life I've been taught to self-medicate. Smoke weed, drink, get your mind off of it. When really you need to be facing what's in your mind and confronting it and letting it out. Finding a healthy space to convey what's really bothering you. And once I started my program and I started therapy, I was like, yo, this shit ain't that bad. Like I felt relief, like to talk about, things that I usually wouldn't talk about. And a good therapist will create the space for you to feel like you are sharing, something with a trusted individual.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and a lot of times we don't know how good it is to talk about stuff because we're taught like just, suck it up, get over it. And I had to reframe that. And I had to let that narrative go and challenge that narrative to say, this is not good. This is not right. We shouldn't be thinking this way. And I really was tired of feeling like, being down and not understanding why and not being able to control myself to move forward. And that's when I was like, you know what, maybe I should get help. Because I ain't got the answers right now. I ain't got the answers. So maybe if I get the help that I need, somebody might be able to help me.
Thank you for that. It kind of takes me into your ACL theory. And was that a theory that you created on your own, or was I feel like it was lived experience, the way I kind of read it. So I would love to just dive right into that.
That was definitely like a lived experience. Like I tore my ACL, like probably I can't remember the year, but I was playing basketball. I tore my ACL, and I knew how important it was to like be able to move. So I was like, I I was hurt behind that. I thought I could play basketball. Every kid's dream is, go play basketball, go to college, play ball. But those dreams went out the window. But the ACL process, I got kicked out of school, right? My senior year, I'm supposed to graduate. I get kicked out of school, and that was like a very traumatic time for me because I'm like, now I'm like, what the hell am I gonna do? I have this plan that my life is gonna look this way after I'm done. Everything's lined up according to like the way I thought it was supposed to be. But
Mhm.
and life shifted. I got kicked out of school. And I was harboring the pain of what I had did, and I was just like, I gotta admit that I was wrong. I have to accept that I have to apologize for what I did, and the behaviors that I was presenting. I had to apologize because in my whole life I was like, yo, I do what I do. It's me. I don't care. Nobody. It don't matter. And I had to admit that I was wrong. Like, and a lot of times we don't admit that we're wrong. So that's the first part of the egg. Is admitting that maybe I did hurt you, right? And a lot of times we're operating in a space where we're not focusing on how other people feel. It's mainly just about us. We live in a very selfish culture where it's just about us. Just think about it. When someone says, "Hey, how are you?" we respond, "Hey, how are you?" Like, think about that. I really don't care about how you feel. Like when people saying, "How are you?" Our responses are so interchangeable. And people say one thing, some people will say another, but a
Yeah.
lot of times we're just going right past each other, right? Because we live in a selfish society. And when we can admit that I'm worried about myself right now, and I apologize that I may have done you wrong, then it's very, like that was the A part of it, and then the C is just like being ready to change, committing to change, and learning what it takes to change is what the C part is. And then learning was the L, and it's learning everything under the sun, like really diving, putting yourself in a position to really, really, really grow and be willing to grow and learn, ask questions, put yourself in places that would be beneficial to you. Like I sat in a few AA meetings, like because I wanted to see what it takes to really change. Like people are that dealt with alcoholism, dealt with drugs and addictions. They are facing some of the most traumatic, like trying days of their lives, like not going back. And so going to a space where they're fighting their biggest demon, and I'm worried as a person, like I'm too stuck up, or I don't need anybody's help. But I hear people who are at their worst, at their real rock bottom, and really learning that I could adapt what they're doing and really help it to make me grow into a better person. And that's why I came up with the ACL theory, and I started telling all the young kids that I mentored about it because I had that was the time period when I was kicked out of school. I couldn't go back on campus. I didn't have nowhere to live. I was living in my car. So I started like volunteering and, going to talk about behavior. And it really, I dived into it, and I didn't want kids to make the same decisions as me. I didn't want people to make the same decisions as me. So those are the reasons of why I created the ACL theory.
Gosh, I got goosebumps. That is deep perspective to be able to go sit in at an AA meeting and say the things that I'm battling and dealing with. If I can take someone truly battling for their life every day and put these same practices, just, and I don't say just towards my demons, but like towards my mental demons and getting in a space where I'm not addicted to something that could kill me. It's just my own thoughts. And if I can control those thoughts, then there's nothing that I can't accomplish or can't do. And then to create this formula and to take it back to the community. And to honestly, like, to be in that point of change where it's like you could have gone back. You could have gone to New York. You could have returned to the streets. You could have went back to hustling, all these things. And instead, even when you're at this moment, and I think it's so important to realize like it could have been a trigger and it could have been something where you looked at it as a complete failure, but instead you decided to pay up. I have to take this year off. I have to do something with it. I'm not going to have it all figured out, but I am going to go and volunteer and make sure that somebody doesn't make the same mistakes I did. Takes such deep perspective to me, and it goes to wholehearted living and listening and learning. And I think about Brene's Brown book, Wholehearted Living, and coming from a place of worthiness. And I think even as you were changing as a man, and you may not have had all the answers. And I'm sure you were still battling some self doubt, realizing that I am still worthy, that I'm worthy of making an impact on someone else, and just being intentional about the way you were living. To be able to show up and to graduate and to have your family there, that following December, I can only imagine how proud you felt grabbing that diploma
Yeah,
and, completing that part of your journey.
yeah. I had to finish. I had to finish. If there was anything that I was gonna do, it was gonna be finished. I hadn't finished a lot. I gave up too much. I gave up a lot. So I was tired of quitting. I was tired of quitting, and I was like, this is one thing that I really got to put my mind to and get accomplished. And I was not turning back. I was not turning back.
What's that one word of advice you would give to anyone who realizes I'm too far to quit?
My word of advice would be who are about to quit, you are at a point now where it's perfect to start all over. You can start all over. I'm gonna just say you can start all over. Hey, write it on the board and erase that shit. Erase it, erase it. Write it on the board and erase it and start all over. That's what I would
Literally.
start all over.
Love that. Oh my gosh. Well, that will conclude our interview with Carl Scott right here on The Business Direct. Please go get his book, A Changed Man. I promise you, you will highlight it, mark it up. There are so many gems in here. Carl, we appreciate you stopping by today. And we look for, also, he has some things coming on the way. Just mention those real quick.
I got well, if you could go visit my website, I got I have a journal like that a mental health journal to help people process how they're feeling. And I also give out sessions to help people write and do journal exercises. So it's something, and I know how quintessential it was for me and my healing process. So I know that just some of the tools that I can help provide people with throughout their journaling will be extremely, beneficial for them. So I have a website. I got some, merchandise. I never thought about these. I'm selling stuff again. I try to get that out of my mind, but I'm back to selling again, and it's a
In a good way.
it's a good way and a good place. Yeah.
What is the name of the website, and where can people keep in contact with you via social media too?
It's carlcscott.com is the website, and then it's Carl C. Scott on all platforms. So that's where
Perfect.
you can connect with me. And I'm just happy to be here.
Yes! I'm just happy to be here. We love it. Thank you so much. Catch us next time.
All right. See y'all later.